What is up, you guys? Welcome to my channel. My name is Armando Ello, and in this channel I'm helping photographers getting better at their craft, video and marketing. So today's topic is a question which I got from Instagram. I asked you guys for a topic to talk about, and it is about the difference between Photoshop and Lightroom. So this is my take on it. I did some research on internet. So what is actually the difference? Because I have my own experience with getting to know both of programs, and I've been there actually since Photoshop 3, Photoshop 2. It was like more than 10 years ago. Since then, I grew in getting to know Photoshop better and all the series since then until now. What I noticed is that Lightroom was coming up in 2008 or something. I don't even remember. Nowadays, I'm making heavily use of Lightroom itself because I started to see what the capabilities are of this program and what the advantages are instead of using Photoshop. And I also must say that I also had the program which is called Photoshop Bridge, which is actually also a program what was pretty similar like Lightroom. So I didn't understand the difference between Bridge and Lightroom, but the Lightroom users were starting to grow as fast as I could remember. And since then, Lightroom and nowadays, Lightroom and Photoshop can exist peacefully next to each other. In my opinion, there are two kinds of users. So the users, we have the Photoshop specialists who know Photoshop by heart and they can read and write with Photoshop. And you have the photographers who use a lot of Lightroom and never touch Photoshop, and the other way around. I started out with Photoshop and then later on I started to use Lightroom, and now I use both. And now even more Lightroom because of these advantages it has on file handling. So when you shoot a lot of pictures during an assignment and also during a reportage or a wedding, then you will find out that you will save a lot of time using Lightroom. And the reason is because you can select your pictures in a more smoother way. Your workflow, it's much better for your workflow. So if you're a photographer who shoots thousands of pictures a day and then want to select them, Photoshop is not a program for that. You need Lightroom. And on the other hand, if you are a Lightroom user and you do want to, you're a portrait photographer, you choose a portrait, and then you want to do more with photo editing, assembling different kinds of pictures, selecting, making things transparent, make use of more layers, which is not possible in Lightroom. So in Lightroom, you have the right side to develop your pictures, like doing the contrast, doing the exposure, doing your curves, and all that stuff you can also find in Photoshop, but you cannot apply it on a different layer on top of your picture. So that is the main difference between developing in Lightroom and Photoshop. So many Lightroom users will find the need to open up the pictures as well in Photoshop and then go further with the editing. If you're hesitating between the two, I would start actually out in Lightroom because you can do a lot of stuff in Lightroom. There are a lot of wedding photographers and photographers I know that only use Lightroom. And obviously, Photoshop is a large program with many bells and buttons to learn, which takes a much longer learning curve than Lightroom. I would start out with Lightroom first and then learn Photoshop. If you are a Photoshop user and swear with Photoshop, let it a little bit go on the fact that you can actually prepare your pictures and select your pictures much better with Lightroom. So eventually my advice would be use both of the programs to make use of the power of both programs. So the editing power with Photoshop, but also the selection power of Lightroom. And then you will have the best of both worlds, in my opinion. So what's left to say about both of the programs? So both programs are actually post-production programs. And I wanted to give you a thing to think about. What kind of photographer are you? So this question helps you maybe choose between the programs. There are photographers who swear with you have to take a picture just as is, and it should be as best as possible when clicking with on the button. If you swear with that vision, so a photographer only deals with photography and not with the editing, because editing is a another kind of craft, then Lightroom makes a lot of sense. Don't do much with your pictures, just export it because you already took it as it is. If you are, and most of you are, a raw photographer because you want to do something with your picture, then Lightroom and Photoshop will help you getting there what you wanted to reach with your picture, what you had as a vision behind the picture. That which means you are also an editor and really rely on the editing as well. Many famous photographers are even better editors than they are photographers. For example, Ante Corbijn. He even admits that he makes a lot of mistakes in photography, but he relies heavily on the editing part. For myself, I found that I use more Lightroom than Photoshop, but since I know Photoshop so well, I use both for my own photography work, and no photo goes in my portfolio without going through Photoshop as well. So hopefully you know now the difference between the two programs and how and when to choose for both of them for your own workflow. So that's it for today. If you have any questions on topics or what you want me to talk about more to help you as a photographer, oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you like this content and hit the bell because I am heading to 100 subscribers. Now I have like 45 subscribers right now, but I'm aiming to 100. This is my goal for this month. So thank you for that if you like this video. Oh, and by the way, at the moment I am making an online course about the Photoshop Essentials and Photography Essentials. If you're interested, you can DM me, you can hit me an email. I will put a link below because it does not exist yet, but it is in process to become a full-fledged course. I really inviting you to try it out if I'm launching this so you can benefit from the early bird price. That was my shameless plug, sponsored by me. See you later. Peace.